Welcome to the Planet Amazon podcast with Adam Schafer, where we explore the world of Amazon and other e-commerce marketplaces. Join us as we delve into the latest strategies and tactics for successful selling on the world's largest online marketplace.
Hello, everybody. I'm Adam Schafer, and welcome to Planet Amazon, where we talk about all things Amazon. I am super excited for our episode today because we have a great guest. His name is Kusha Karvande, and he's an Inc. 500 entrepreneur with remarkable history of launching and exiting several 7- and 8-figure e-commerce businesses. So this could be a lot to learn from him. He has over a decade of experience in scaling brands on Amazon, and Kusha has mastered the art of driving sales through advanced marketing strategies, data analysis, and impactful branding. But he's got a new venture, and his recent venture is Kazam. It's a revolutionary AI-based SaaS tool, and it's transforming the way Amazon advertising campaigns are optimized. It offers users significant profitability and organic ranking improvements. Now, he'll talk more about that, and I'm really interested about that. But first, welcome to the show, and thanks for joining us today, Kusha.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
So, first of all, where are you? I keep on forgetting.
Yeah, I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona.
So soon to be super hot. So there's so much I want to talk about, and I definitely, selfishly, I want to talk about the SaaS platform because what you offer is what I need, and what I need, I think, is what tons of other 1P and 3P sellers need, and that's help in getting more from our advertising. But tell us a little bit about you and how you got into this, and tell us about some of these businesses that you built and sold.
Sure. Yeah, the journey started, a little over a decade ago. My experience has always been working in the gyms. At the time, I was a health club manager and personal trainer back then. Did that for about 5 to 10 years, and then basically I had seen an article in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning for something called blood flow restriction training, which I thought was such a weird concept. I thought, why would you ever want to restrict blood flow during exercise? And as I went further down the rabbit hole, I realized that there was actually a lot of research behind this methodology and how it was, helping people not only with rehab as well as muscle gain and whatnot, and being able to make gains while lifting light weights. And so I basically decided, I wanted to create a product for something like this because I couldn't see anything in the marketplace that existed. People in the bodybuilding community were using like wrist wraps and knee wraps and such. And so I thought, there needs to be something that's a little bit easier that you can, tie by yourself, almost like a tourniquet with one hand. And so my wife and I, we designed something very, very simple in the beginning, a simple strap. And we didn't know anything about e-commerce at the time. And so I think it was really my wife who discovered Amazon FBA, and we just kind of by accident really just kind of launched on there because it's a little bit easier, as most Amazon sellers probably know, it's a little bit easier to get traffic initially from Amazon than it is to launch your own Shopify store and try to launch Facebook ads or TikTok ads and so forth. There's a little bit more, nuance to do that versus Amazon, especially back then. It wasn't quite as competitive as it is obviously now. That was a great launch pad. I was able to get that brand off the ground. It was called BFR Bands. And we ran that brand for, I think we ran it for like 5-6 years, almost 7 years before we sold it. We sold it, I think, in 2020. And that was that was actually my second exit. I exited a different brand before that, which I'll mention in a second. But yeah, basically it was it was a wild ride because it started as like a side hustle that I was, doing that while, working in the gyms, then ended up leaving that job, doing some consulting. And my Amazon business was still a side business at the time. And then eventually, it just over the course of a year or two, it became a full-time thing. And I focused on that business, pretty much full-time. And then by chance, we kind of saw an opportunity to launch a product in the massage gun space. And that was called Vibe. And that was kind of a competitor to like Theragun. And this is like when massage guns were like early and new. And, this is, probably 7 years ago. And, basically ran that for about 18 months. We scaled that brand to about 8 figures, like within 12 months or so. And we sold it 18 months after creating it in 2019. So that one was kind of a strange deal because I built it to be separate from the BFR Bands brand. I kind of set that up as a separate brand, separate thing so that I could separate it from the core products because it was a little bit different and it was more ancillary than a core product to BFR Bands. So I exited that. And then, in 2020, sold the BFR bands. Then I when I sold the BFR bands brand, I actually kept the my seller account and the products in it at that time, which is not, I don't think it's common when you sell your.
Yeah, no, you sold the brand, but you didn't sell the 3P account.
I didn't sell the account, which is not as common. I think probably the buyer kind of regretted that at the time.
Right.
I think they were just very, I think they're very anxious to buy the products. At the time, they really were trying to grow and buy as many brands as they could. So they were making a lot of different deals that they probably aren't doing now. But I was able to keep the account. And so I kept, I excluded a lot of other brands of mine. And I didn't have a ton of existing brands outside of that, but I did have some other, smaller, different brands, all in the health and wellness space that I had kept. And I added some new brands to it after I exited in 2020. And then basically scaled some of those and scaled some of the new ones and the existing ones. And then I sold that portfolio of brands in 2021. It was about almost a year and a half later. It was end of 2021. And then, basically, so that was my third exit. And then at that time, I did have to sell the seller account, ended up creating a new seller account. I did keep some SKUs. So I didn't, even though I sold the seller account, I didn't sell all of the SKUs again. I did retain like a few SKUs, a handful that were very minimal. And then again, same thing, 2021, I launched a series of new brands. And I still have this seller account now, scaled that to, over 7 figures now, multiple 7 figures in the last, year and a half, almost 2 years now.
So you've been selling on Amazon all along the way with different brands. These would be private label brands, your products, your proprietary stuff. You started in the gym, you're a gym entrepreneur, and you came up with a bunch of great health and fitness products.
Yep,
and,
exactly.
The restricting blood flow, you'll have to tell me about sometime, because I don't know how that works, but I remember when I was a kid, we used to kind of choke each other until we passed out. I don't think that's recommended, but anyway, it was kind of pretty stupid. But that's great. I mean, incredible success. When you were starting these businesses, were you starting them with the thought that you were going to sell them, or were you just starting them with the thing like, this is cool, I can make some money?
No, I started it because I was, at the time, my wife and I, we've been together since high school. We've been together since, 21 years now. And so we got married young. We got married when we were like 20. I was 23. I think she was 22. We basically have always kind of been of the mindset that like eventually we'd want to raise a family and be able to be free and do our own thing. I knew I had to get out of this. The gym industry. Anyone who's worked in the gyms as a trainer or in health clubs knows that it's quite a hustle. You're there for long hours. And at the time, I was managing. I was managing a gym in downtown San Diego called Fit Athletic, which is kind of like a Equinox, so kind of like a Lifetime, pretty large gym. I had like 70 employees. It was a 50,000 square foot facility. It was a really, really big headache of a gym. I had like 30 trainers. It was a lot. And I was training, I wasn't getting paid to train, but I just loved training so much. I had a few clients I was training myself too, just to kind of lead by example and that sort of thing. And it was just a lot of hours. I would literally get up sometimes at 3 a.m. and get ready, go to work 5 a.m. when they open, get home at like 7 p.m. And I would do that like 6.5 days a week. Like the only day I really took off was maybe Sunday. And even then I was still kind of going in there. So I was working a lot. And, my wife and I were like, there's no way how are we going to raise a family like this? And she was working full time too for a different employer. And so I'm like, this is just not going to work. We got to find a way out of this. And sure enough, I think one of the best things I did was working at that gym, because I was working in downtown San Diego, and you meet a lot of these entrepreneurs at the gym, a lot of successful people. And some of the people I met were in e-commerce. And I was like, this one guy, a friend of mine, this guy, Drew, he was in the gym like 3 times a day. I'm like, what's this guy? This guy's like not working ever. He's in the gym 3 times a day. What's he doing here? I'm like, this guy's killing it. Yeah. I'm like, how is this possible? It was like, just, it was like something I'd never seen before. And so kind of like, law of attraction, I don't know what it is, something, really brought me to connect with these different entrepreneurs. The rest was kind of history. I ended up connecting with a few of them, and then ended up getting some mentorship from a few different, good entrepreneurs, e-commerce entrepreneurs. And so I knew that long term, I'm like, if I want to have like freedom of like lifestyle and freedom of time and freedom of geography to be able to live where I wanted to live or travel or whatever it may be, I can't be tied down to trading my time for money in a job like this. I got to get into something where I'm working for myself, and e-commerce is great because you can do it from anywhere.
Right.
So
No,
that's
I
kind of
mean,
what
what a story. What a great story, and very inspirational. I mean, that is the American dream, right? Like this is it. You know, and what that's what I love about Amazon. And you know, there's about 2 million, believe it or not, sellers on the platform outside of brands that sell to Amazon. There's a bunch of us, you and others, that are selling and building a business. And in the old days, if you wanted to start selling retail, you had to go rent a store and kit out a store and get all that. But now you can, if you know the game and you can play the game right, you could build a business on Amazon, and then you could port it over and do a Shopify or do something like that. So I think it's just it is great, and it's great for entrepreneurs that want to build a brand and build a business. So thank
Mhm.
you for your inspiration to, from me and from everybody. So you got to help me understand, how did you bridge from building products to now building software? Because that's what I think your platform is. It's software that helps people build their business. Give
Yeah,
us the story.
I've been wanting to build a SaaS software for a long time, just because I love software. I love different tools that can help make your business more efficient. And again, it goes back to like anything that can help you have more freedom of your lifestyle and freedom of time. Because I was doing everything so manually in the beginning, and softwares just make it so much easier. And now with the advent of AI and how it's kind of pervading everything we do, I knew that I need to build something with AI built into it. Obviously that's a trendy thing right now, but I also wanted to build something that was going to have longevity to it and become kind of an evergreen tool that people would be able to use and make it evolve. I see a lot of softwares I've used where they get lazy with it. The owners don't change anything. There's no real reiterations of anything new, no features for a long time. So with this, I already when I built the software, I actually mapped out like 10 new features that I want to launch, step by step. First, I don't want to overcomplicate it and make the user experience too complex. So in the beginning, I have just one core feature, but over time, we're going to drip out new things, as well as I want to be able to take user feedback quickly. We have a lot of integrations we can talk about to connect us with the end user, so we can get critical feedback of what do they want to see. What things can we improve or add or change, so we can move really, really quickly with this and launch new things. But
So
yeah, the
so
software.
in a nutshell, what is Kazam? Like, give us like that core thing so we get it.
Yeah, so Kazam is basically an AI-based Amazon advertising software that takes a combination of AI and all the rule sets that I've used to manually run ads for myself and clients over the last decade, to basically run your entire Amazon PPC for you. And the unique aspect of it that it does that no other PPC software does that I've seen is that it takes into account your organic rankings of your products. So as we've seen over time, Amazon's just gotten more and more expensive. The PPC costs keep going up. They have new fees. If you have inventory in storage for too long, they charge you fees. And now if you have inventory in storage, not enough in
Not
storage,
enough, right?
short, they charge you fees. They're charging you fees everywhere, every which way they can go. And it makes sense. It's a public company. They have to make sure to continually, find ways to add revenue. And, I think they're going to always find ways to get more out of third-party sellers inevitably over time. So I thought, with this, if we can factor in your organic rankings, then we can customize your bids and your budgets so that you're not spending as much on things that might be redundant. Like if you're selling a dog leash, for example, and you show up, really well for dog leash for large dogs, and you're already at top of search, then maybe it doesn't make sense to also run PPC for top of search that might be super competitive and expensive for a keyword that you're already ranking for. I mean, certainly you obviously can do that if it benefits you and you're getting a halo effect or increased brand awareness and exposure to do both. But usually I find when I cut certain ads where I have those redundancy, I end up maintaining the sales. So it leads me to believe I didn't really even need to run those ads, or at least certainly not at the bid cost that I was, in order to maintain the same revenue.
So I want to make sure I got this right. So I have a product. I'm ranking, I don't know, 150 on a BSR for my subcategory, whatever it is. And your software is following the ranking,
Yep.
looking for ways to increase the ranking. Obviously, the goal to get to, number 1 or number 5 or whatever it would be. And so I'm trying to wrap my head around this thing. Like, so what is it actually doing? It's trying to find this word will help you increase your rank.
Yeah, exactly. It's doing a few things. It's looking at where you are, so it's driving the bids and the bid adjustment. is being driven until you reach basically top 10 rankings. So once you get to the top 10, which we know that is where you're going to see a significant threshold and difference in conversion organically, that's when it starts backing off the bids. It starts bringing that cost down.
So it's like a governor or something. It'll get you up to 10 or 8 or whatever it is, and then it'll take the pedal off the gas a little bit, and then maybe you'll put the pedal back on the gas, and it just keeps on moderating to keep you and optimizing to keep you in that top 10.
Mm-hmm. It's like adaptive cruise control basically on a car. Like, if the car in front of you speeds up. Yep, exactly.
So how does it work? First of all, did you write this? Are you a software developer?
No, I wrote basically all the rule sets and the concepts behind it, and then I worked with a team of software engineers and a UX UI designer to basically put it all together. And design wise, I think that it still has a lot I think can be improved. I want to continually make it better. But in terms of functionality, it functions flawlessly. It functions exactly how I expected it to. And I think over time, just like what we've seen with AI, it just gets better over time as it learns.
So is it like an API that it connects to Seller Central Advertising, and
yep.
you manage in the software? You don't manage on Amazon once you do that, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, you manage everything in the software. Yep. And we even recently added a new functionality where you can basically pull in your existing campaigns. So if you're a seller who's already had a ton of campaigns that you've been already running, and you want to apply some of the rule sets inside the software and have it kind of go on autopilot in the software, you can do that. You can pull those in your dashboard, and you can set those rule sets, and it will automatically apply it with regard to like min and max bid and target ROAS or ACoS and that sort of thing.
What's the difference? I mean, not to, we haven't talked about this, but what's the difference between your software and I've done the Helium 10, and I've done Selizo and done FeedVisor and all these others, and some you have to pay a fee for, and some it's just a platform. What's the big difference? What is the major differential between your software and all these other softwares?
Yeah, I would say 3 main things. I would say number 1, cost. I mean, cost is something that as an Amazon seller, I'm always conscious of, because every time I add a software, I feel like I'm getting gouged another $500 or $1,000.
Me too, man.
So yeah, cost was a big consideration. And so for most sellers, they're probably going to, depending on how much they're spending, they're probably going to be on the $200 plan, $200 a month. So for $200 a month, it's like having somebody run all your PPC, and that's hard to find an employee who can run your PPC for $200 a month. So, cost is a big consideration. The second was what I mentioned in terms of the organic rankings and managing that profitability for you. And then the third is just really how it's just really dynamic in terms of the campaigns it's building. So it's not just like running one campaign. It's going to run and create a series of campaigns. And then one thing it also does is it will automatically do things for you that you don't need to do manually. Like in the past, I would manually have to go through and look at high converting search terms. And I would take those search terms and put them in new campaigns and target just to get more granular and increase profitability. And the software will do all that automatically. It'll identify search terms that are, actual customer search terms that are converting or ASINs that are converting. And it will create new campaigns to target those specifically to help you get a little bit more profitable and scale up.
So for a brand, you can have multiple different campaigns running, and it decides if it's a new campaign or not, or you decide.
No, it will decide. It will basically create it'll create a series of campaigns when you launch. Basically, we have like one type of theme. It's called the Quick Start theme. That's the initial theme that you'll see in there when you sign up. And this is designed for someone to basically, I don't want to say set it and forget it, because you never really want to do that with your ads, but that's kind of what it's designed to do, is somebody who wants to really focus on what they're good at, which is the marketing and the product development and the customer service and that sort of thing. Focus on that, let the software really focus on the ads. And so you just click a button, you select your SKU that you want to advertise, and all you have to do is basically put in like a couple parameters, like minimum, maximum bid, and basically your target ACoS for that based on whatever your margins are. And that's it. You click that, it turns that SKU on. And now with that SKU on being in advertise mode, with that being enabled, the system will start creating new campaigns for that specific SKU. And then
That
over
is
time,
awesome.
it will keep creating new campaigns based on the performance.
And the level of expertise within Seller Central and advertising, is this for a basic novice that could get it going and start using this thing?
Yeah, I designed it for beginners, beginner to intermediate. That's who it's really mainly designed for. But then, even myself, being much more of an advanced seller, having done this for a long time, I've added other things in there, other customizations. If you want to get more granular, you can. You can actually go in there if you want something that's, let's say you're a beginner and you're like, okay, I just want to get this up and running. You can get it up and running in a couple clicks. You just pick your SKU, you add those three variables like your min and max bid and target ACoS, and you're up and running. That's it. But if you're somebody who's like, you know what, I need to get a little more granular, I want to get in there, I have a little more experience with advertising, you can do that. You can go in there and you can target certain competitors. You can put in things around your brand, if you want to target certain keywords, you can put negative targeting. Like if you're like, okay, I want to have negative exact for these certain keywords or ASINs. You can go in there and do day parting, seasonality, all of that. You can go in there.
Could you have it do that for you, like without knowing how to do the day parting, without knowing how to do the negative campaigns? Could you say, I want a negative campaign, I want to do day parting, and it figures it out?
Some of that it will do by itself, but the seasonality and the day parting is not automated yet. That's something that, I haven't really experimented enough around that to know whether that would help or hurt. And so, I don't know if we want to launch with that yet. But again, this is a feedback oriented system. So if users say, hey, you know what, I would love if you could make some of these features, more automated, then we will certainly do that. And we're going to obviously be gathering a lot of data too, and we'll be able to see, hey, this would be a safe feature to make automated.
Do you find the people that are using it continually ask more questions, or do you think they're figuring it out on their own? Do they need handholding?
Yeah, no, I would say most sellers are, pretty silent when it comes to, their business. They don't really ask for enough help. And I'm always happy to be a resource and help the community and anybody who's watching this too. Anyone who reaches out, I'm happy to answer any questions and help in any way I can. Because I know the struggle. I know, especially as I've seen in a lot of these forums and Facebook groups, the majority of comments and sentiment I see around selling on Amazon, it gets worse over time. People get more frustrated. And I know the feeling of the black hole of seller support, the sabotage by the Chinese sellers and such, and other sellers who, seem to play by a different set of rules. So I know the feeling. And so I feel like because of all that sellers are generally kind of just doing it on their own. They're not asking for help, but definitely ask for help. I think that's a mistake. It's always good to, figure out what needs to be done, and don't use the Amazon seller forums as a way to get help or ask questions or vent. I feel like that's a pretty useless place.
Oh, wow. That's good advice. And so when it comes, like some of the software that's out there, you can get like a managed version of it where they help you and they'll have somebody. Do you do that, or you don't need to do that with your software?
With ours you don't. I mean, we do offer different plans, and some of them offer higher levels of support. But honestly, in any of the packages right now, because we are fairly new right now, you'll have increased basically access to me and my customer support team. So anything that somebody needs, if they have questions, we're going to offer them more support. If they're on the higher plan, obviously they're going to have a little bit more, FaceTime with us and that sort of thing if they need it. But honestly, they don't really need it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. The functionality of the software is designed. I designed it to be very, very easy because I didn't want it to be so complex where you get confused. And because when you get confused, you don't take action, you get paralyzed. So I wanted something where you can, get in there, select your SKU and get going, and that's it. And let the system do the work for you, because that's really what the point of the software is.
So a lot of this is, we're talking about PPC. Is there any advice to the listeners and sellers on Amazon on affecting their organic rankings? Like, is it just making sure your content's good and blah, blah, blah? Anything you could say on organic?
Yeah, so on the organic side, the main thing, Amazon's algorithm is always changing, and I think they are integrating some more AI into their algorithm. I've noticed, like when you search in the search bar, for example, I've noticed like it will start to try to show, it'll auto-populate products that I've purchased in the past and that sort of thing. It'll try to do that. So I noticed they're doing some new things. So it's always changing, but I think that what still works is making sure that you have your primary keywords in your title and the first bullet point. I think those are still weighted the highest. I don't think you need to repeat keywords. I see a lot of sellers do that where they repeat certain keywords or phrases. I don't think that's necessary. I think it just needs to be in there. The word itself needs to be in there. And then making sure the most important thing is just going through and scrolling Amazon and hedge your search result of your product to the other search results. How does the image look? Is your image, if all the other images are kind of full width and the product takes up a ton of the space of the of the pixels of the image, then maybe you should do the same thing, or maybe you should do something slightly different to stand out. So you got to look at that image, because the image affects the click-through rate a ton. Then the title would probably be the second thing in terms of the copy, not just the keywords, but the actual copy to catch the person's attention. What are the keywords that need to be in there that maybe they're not super, high ranking keywords, but they might help you convert because they help create clarity in your product. So having those keywords there. And then I would say the other thing would be price point. How are you priced? And, I saw somebody made a suggestion I saw a while back that I think is actually a great suggestion, which is using clippable coupons with a high percentage discount, 30 to 50%. And the reasoning behind it, the theory was that a good chunk of Amazon customers don't remember to actually clip the coupon. So they see the huge coupon. Yeah. So you get a huge, click-through rate and conversion, but it doesn't actually impact your margin as much because maybe only half the people actually clip the coupon.
Yeah, no, that I get for sure. That's a good one. And what about the actual A+ content? I mean, you would use all the modules, fill it out. If you could get the premium content, get the premium content.
Yeah, the premium is pretty easy to qualify for. Yeah, it used to be a little bit more difficult to get the premium, and then over time they made it, pretty easy. I think pretty much anyone can get it. If you have a registered brand, you can get premium A+. I think you have to have 5 A+, regular A+ submissions and a brand story on all your ASINs, and then that's it. And one little hack around that too is that you can just duplicate. Like if you don't have 5 products and you're like, well, how am I going to get 5 A+ submissions? I only have 1 product. You can literally just duplicate the single A+ page you have, duplicate it 5 times, and it'll get approved instantly, and that will qualify for your 5 submissions. Then all you need is your brand story, apply it to all your ASINs that it applies to, and that's pretty much it. I think every Friday they automatically assess, and you'll get it unlocked. But that premium A+ is a must, because I think that makes the brand stand out so much more, especially if you're in a competitive space. I think that's really key. Especially having video in there. Video is key, because not everyone will see or watch the video in the carousel area. Mm-hmm. So I think having video in there is really, really key. Having a comparison table if you have other products to be able to cross-sell and upsell, because not everyone will know that you have other products at different price points potentially. I think that's a big part of it. And the other thing I will mention too is that if you have issues with hijackers and that sort of thing, one hack I'll mention is that you can enroll in Transparency. And in Transparency, you just need to have a registered trademark, basically in any country. And I didn't know this because Transparency is a global, program. So you can get like in the US, if you get a registered trademark, it could take you a year or 2 to get a registered trademark. Even if you try to fast track it, it takes a long time. But in Germany, you can get a registered trademark in 2 weeks. Their system's a little bit different there. You can basically file for it. I think I got mine in 3 days. It was registered in 3 days in Germany. And then what they do in Germany is it's registered. So you can then use that registration to get Amazon Transparency and then protect your brand from hijackers and that sort of thing. And then I think within a month or something like that, or 2 months, they publish it for opposition. So as long as nobody tries to negate your trademark registration there, it basically registers and you're good. So that's one kind of hack. You can't really use that trademark to enforce your brand. Like if somebody's infringing on your trademark or something in the US marketplace, you can't use a German trademark to do that. But at the very least,
for brand registry, it's fine, right?
Yeah, you can use it at least for transparency.
Yeah, we use IP Accelerator in the US to get the brands going. It takes, you don't have the trademark. It still takes a while to get the trademark, but you can be up and running on brand registry pretty quick. But going to Transparency, you just got me thinking, so we work with some brands that, again, so we don't actually make products. We're not the private label, we're an accelerator. So we'll work with brands and help them sell on Amazon. And several of our brands are in the Transparency program. but it's different. There's something where there's serial numbers and there's something with this labels. Are you talking about the barcode labels, or you're talking about the serial numbers?
Well, it's kind of both. With transparency, what you have to do is it's a serialized system. So what they do is like with the regular UPC barcode on your product, the UPC barcode is the same on all your units. If you send 1,000 units to Amazon, that barcode is exactly the same. With transparency, the barcode, it's going to show a number on it. That number is basically your UPC, usually is what I see. And that number looks the same. So it might, at first glance, you look at it and you're like, well, all these barcodes are the same, these transparency barcodes. But it's actually a QR code, and the QR code is unique. So it's serialized. So every unit has a different serialized QR code, even though the number below it on that sticker, that transparency sticker, looks the same. So yeah, it's a serialized system that basically every single one is unique. So when you enroll in transparency, you have to go into the transparency portal, and then you have to basically download however many codes you need for your next order. So if you're going to send, let's say, 10,000 units to FBA, you go in your transparency, you request 10,000 codes, and then it will give you two files. It'll give you a CSV and a PDF. You send that to the printing company. I use like Avery in China. You send it to Avery Dennison, they'll print it and they'll ship it to your supplier in China. And then that supplier will then put it on all your products, for example. And they put them on each unit, and then they'll send it to FBA.
I think I'm a big believer in it. It's just something that you need to, agree that you're going to, commit to, because if you're selling in other channels, it's not always that easy. But I agree. I love it. Cool. Didn't mean to get into transparency, but we started working with some brands, and it's definitely been helping some of the bad actors on Amazon. So, your product is really focused on optimizing advertising, getting the ranking up. But I'm sure you were saying earlier, and I cut you off, that there's some other features that you're building out. So what are some of the cool new stuff that you're going to add?
Yeah, so I have things like that will just, in terms of rankings, if somebody's like, oh, you know what, I really want to focus on these keywords just to rank quickly. I'm launching a new brand, I'm launching a new product, and I want to get these ranked for these particular keywords as fast as possible. We're going to have a different theme that's going to be designed around focusing on rankings. And it's going to focus on pulling in not just the keywords they provide us, but it will, with Amazon, you almost have to, look at the keyword and all these semantically related keywords. So the system's going to pull in all the semantically related keywords. So if you really want to, let's say you want to go after dog leash, which is extremely competitive because a short tail, high volume keyword, maybe the system is going to launch a ton of campaigns around these longer tail keywords that are semantically related. Best dog leash for large dogs, dog leash for small dogs, so forth. So you have a long list of these variety of keywords that contain variations of those words in them. And the idea is that it's basically sending signals to Amazon's algorithm that you're relevant for the primary keyword. And it tends to work really well. I mean, I've seen you ranking well, doing this manually. I've seen ranking well for short tail target keywords without even targeting that keyword directly, like without actually even.
And I just want to make sure I got it right. So you're saying by targeting these long tail words, you'll get the short tail.
Exactly. Yeah, Amazon's finding you relevant for the short tail keyword when you're getting sales through the long tail keywords.
Okay. That's I didn't realize that. And so you've probably seen it all. What are some of the biggest advertising mistakes people make? Of course, when they're not using your software.
Yeah, I would say the most important thing, this is the most important thing by far, whether you're focusing on rankings or you're focusing on getting immediate visibility through PPC, you got to make sure that your listing is competitive. And so in the beginning, PPC is a great place to get your visibility and get traffic, because you could be at the top of page one through PPC from day one without running any rankings campaign, because you're just paying per click, you're advertising. So in that case, you can be a little bit more aggressive. I would try to be aggressive in your pricing or your offer. Maybe you have bonuses or something like that to make your offer more appealing. Or just make sure your creatives are really good. You have really strong creatives, video creatives, as seen in badges, whatever it may be, to have a lot of social proof to maximize the conversion. Because in the beginning, the mistakes people make is they try to go after rankings and keywords where they're not competitive enough. Like all the other competition at the top of the page has like 10,000 reviews and they have like 2 reviews. So that's the one piece of advice no one gave me in the beginning that I wish I had known before I wasted a lot of money on trying to rank. Is I remember ranking products in the beginning, being like, wow, I'm ranking like top of the page, #1 or top 5. And then like a few days later, I would drop completely off the face of the earth. I'm like, what happened? I was ranking. Like, why isn't it working? But I didn't realize that like, just because you rank doesn't mean you're going to stick. Even if you're selling the exact same thing as somebody else, even if it's slightly better than the competition, even if the price point, unless the price point is like drastically better, and even then, you still have to have a comparable number of reviews. So I think the thresholds are usually around like, if somebody has like 20 or 30 reviews, you need probably at least like 10 reviews, to be competitive. If the top competition has, somewhere around 100 to 900 some reviews, you need at least 100 reviews to be competitive. If they have over 1,000, you need to have at least 1,000, and so forth. Because it's really the psychology. Like if someone goes to Amazon, they search a keyword, and all the competitors have, let's say, 5,000 reviews, if you're at like 100 reviews, you're probably not going to take away a lot of market share, and it'll be hard to maintain those rankings. You're going to have to be running continual, a variety of different campaigns to keep and maintain that rank at that level. So, and that may not be profitable.
Kusha, you brought it up, man, but how do you go get all those great reviews? Because that's not a simple task.
Yeah, I mean, so basically in the beginning, you really gotta, you gotta leverage as many sources as you can. And TikTok is a great channel. A lot of people are talking about TikTok as being the gold rush, although I am a little concerned around maybe TikTok being banned. And so I wouldn't rely too much on just TikTok. Who knows? Don't know if that's going to be there or not. But TikTok,
but social media.
Yeah, social media influencers are a great way in the beginning. You have to be careful because, I know a lot of sellers are reaching out to influencers directly to get reviews. So I'm sure a lot of those buyer accounts are flagged, and you don't want those buyer accounts associated with your seller account if these people are, leaving reviews on everyone's products and that sort of thing. And it's going to negatively associate with your account. So you want to try to avoid that. What I would recommend is try to go after these micro influencers who aren't really influencers at all. People who have like maybe 100 friends on TikTok or 100 followers, maybe under 1,000, I would say, threshold in terms of followers on like Instagram or TikTok. Those would be a good place to start, because those are people who are like, pseudo influencers. Mm-hmm. They just have mostly friends and family that are following them.
So back to the long tail again, right?
Yep, exactly. You go after those, you get them to buy, and and then get them to ask them to leave a review as well. That would be a good place to get that going. Vine can be good too, but I have found that Vine can backfire if you're very confident in your product, and you have a lot of if you have good product packaging and inserts and things that really maximize the customer experience. Because Vine, I feel like, is like 50% of Vine is around the unboxing experience. Like they're judging you based on the unboxing, I feel like. And if they have a great unboxing, like that's like half the battle. They're like, okay, I love this product. That'll get you like at least 4 stars right there. But in general, I found that like Vine reviewers generally tend to be more critical than they used to be. And so you can get up to 30 reviews initially with Vine. And the two issues are that, number one, it could take, God knows how long before you get those 30 reviews. There's no way to really control how long that will happen, what time frame. And number two, like you might get all 4-star reviews. And if your competitors are all like 4.5 stars or higher, that's not going to really help you competitively. So that can be an issue in itself. And sometimes I've seen it backfire where you get a lot of 1-star reviews for some reason from Vine. So that can be tough too. And those reviews are weighted a little bit higher. So it can be hard to overcome that, even if you start getting a lot of organic reviews over time. So I think definitely the influencer route is a good way to get going. And then obviously long-term evergreen, you need to have some type of funnel. Like you need to have something through your product, your packaging, your inserts that leads them through some type of a funnel in order to be able to interact with the customer and ask them to leave a review. I think that's really the only way long-term.
And you talked about it earlier, you got started on Amazon, but did you do Shopify?
I did. Yeah. I still do Shopify, and, one brand my BFR Bands brand was like half Shopify. And
I mean, I like the platform a lot. I mean, I like Amazon for the audience it brings you, but I love the freedom of Shopify. And I think maybe your conversion rate will be better on Amazon just because it's Amazon and people are there and people might not know your site. But I do think there's something about having that relationship with the customers.
Yeah, it is. It's and it's like, it's a longer term strategy, because it's definitely a learning curve, and it's completely different than Amazon. Like learning how to build your Shopify. Like if you think about Amazon's already kind of laid out the whole page for you. So in terms of the user experience, the customer conversion experience, all of that's already taken care of for you. With Shopify, obviously Shopify does some of that, but you have to like design it. You have to design your theme. You got to design the whole page, the creatives and everything. You got to do all of that. And then you got to think about fulfillment. Like, are you going to use FBA to fulfill your Shopify orders? Are you going to use like ShipBob or something like that to fulfill? You have to think about that. You have to think about customer service. With FBA is doing most of the customer service. And in the rare instance the customer needs more, then they reach out to the seller. But even with my brands that was doing, my one brand that was doing like 8 figures, I would only get like a handful of messages a day through Seller Central. I think Amazon FBA was handling most of the customer service outreach. So,
and Shopify, you're on your own. And again, I digress, but I mean, I do like Shopify. So like circling back to the Kazam platform, like I'm definitely going to try it. I want to do it. So if somebody wants to try it, is there like a X amount of free day trial, or is there a monthly you can get in and out if you don't like it? And is there a monthly spend that you have to spend in advertising to use it?
Yeah. So basically, we have 3 plans. Every plan, it's kind of based on how much you spend on Amazon now, in terms of basically like the thresholds for the different plans. But basically our startup plan's $197 a month, and it's up to $10,000 in monthly ad spend. Okay. And then the next one up is $397 a month. That's up to $50,000 a month in ad spend, which is probably, those 2 are going to cover the majority sellers. And then the third plan, which is $547 a month, that covers up to $200,000 a month in monthly ad spend. And all 3 plans come with a 7-day trial. So
you get a 7-day trial. Do you have to sign up for a year, or can you do it
it's just month to month? Yeah, they're all month to month. There's no yearly contract.
That's great. Okay. Well, I'd love to, start wrapping it up, but I really would love to get some final thoughts for people that are either getting in or on the Amazon platform, maybe some your words of wisdom.
Yeah, I would say the one thing for me, I've never done drop shipping or wholesaling. I know that might work for some people, especially with wholesale, if you can get contracts with certain suppliers, certain brands, that I think that might be lucrative. It's not something I've ever really been successful with. My success has always been in like, I would say stay in your niche, like something you have to stay in your circle of competence. A mentor of mine called it like your success signature. You stay in that realm of like what you know really well. And mine's always been health and fitness. And I find that like if I were trying to go into like office products or something random like that, I wouldn't be as successful in those niches because I don't have the depth of knowledge that I've garnered through health and fitness. I have like, almost 24 certifications as a trainer and I've trained over 10,000 one-on-one hours with clients back in the day. So I have a lot of knowledge around where the trends are going with health and fitness that I can be kind of ahead of the curve, kind of like the Wayne Gretzky of like go where the puck is going to be, not where it is. That's the mindset you have to have, is like what's an area of your expertise that you have knowledge that you almost have that insider knowledge that other sellers won't have, especially the Chinese sellers won't have that depth of knowledge. Usually they're going to just kind of copy a product, whatever the top seller is in a category, they're going to kind of copy that and undercut them in price, that sort of thing usually. So try to go into it knowing like, okay, can I find a niche, number one, that I have that intricate knowledge? Number two, I would recommend starting with private label, to keep your costs low, to test the viability. So you find a supplier, whether it be through Alibaba or a trading company, whatever it may be. And then just launch something with a low MOQ that's comparable to the competition, ideally with something to make it a little bit better. So you're not just competing on price. Right. Make it a little bit better, add a bonus, multi-pack, whatever it may be, add something to it to make it a little bit better, or maybe a small design element to make it a little bit better without investing heavily in tooling and molds. Get it going. And then once you've proven it, after like the first month or two, then you can say, you know what, okay, I'm going to now work with some engineers. You can hire some engineers and get the engineers to create the CAD files for you, which are these kind of manufacturing files, design files that you can then give to your factory and say, hey, are you able to customize this product further? I want to make these changes, or I want to make this new version. What would that cost to create the mold and the tooling to manufacture this? That would be the next step. And then you'd want to start building some intellectual property around that. Like one thing I would recommend from there on top of that would be to sell the product for a little bit first before you invest in the intellectual property, unless you're like certain that it's going to be really valuable. Because I've invested in a lot of things, ideas that the products were just kind of so-so or didn't sell very well. And it was kind of too late. I'd already invested so much into molds and tooling and IP. And then I had to just basically phase out the product because the market didn't really care. So it's better to let people vote with their wallets on Amazon, see if they buy the product. If they like it, then okay, this is the product that I should go get a design or utility patent for it and so forth.
And you think it's not too late for somebody to start up on Amazon today? It's not too busy, not too crowded?
No. I think it's a good and a bad thing, because it's definitely much harder than it was obviously 5-10 years ago. It's definitely much more challenging with more competition. But the good thing is, if you can be patient and you're willing to, take the time to learn and look at this as a slow game, it's not going to be overnight. It might take you 6 to 12 months to get this thing really going and profitable, more or less. So if you look at it from that perspective, that, hey, this is not the get rich quick scheme, then I do think that this is a very viable strategy, because once you're in, then a lot of other people on the other end of it, on the other side, a lot of people are going to give up. And now you're in, you're successful, you're making money, while everyone else is like, oh, Amazon's too hard, it doesn't work anymore, I give up. So it's almost a good thing now. Whereas in the past, it's like everyone was jumping in because it was so easy.
Yeah. So Kusha, how do people contact you, and how do they learn more about Kazam? Tell us about ways to get to you.
Yeah, so our website is gokazam.com. That's GOKAZAM.com. And then my email address, you can email me at info@gokazam.com. And those, any questions from me will be routed to me, and I'm really happy to help really answer anything, that people have questions about. I also have ownership in an agency called LaunchTitans.com. Launch Titans it's like a full service agency as well. And one thing we help with is, helping people basically build different funnels, like customer engagement funnels, as well as with engineering. If somebody's like, hey, you know what, like, how do I, take my private label product and then build like some concepts and ideas to make it better. And then once I have that idea, how do I actually make the manufacturing files, the CAD files, the tooling? How do I find the factory? We can help with all that as well. That's
awesome. So you're an inspiration to me and to everybody that's listening. So thanks so much for your information. We wish you luck, and I'm definitely going to start trying your software. So thank you so much for joining us today. And, let's keep on talking, because, there's definitely a lot there. And please come back and join us again.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for watching another episode of the Planet Amazon podcast, where we talk all things Amazon. If you want to learn about how to accelerate your sales on Amazon, visit Phelps United's website at phelpsunited.com.